Hello beautiful people, I'm RaishPhoenix, and in today's video we're going to be talking about unlearning trauma. If you haven't already, go ahead and click the subscribe button and click the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. I want to first start off by defining what I mean by trauma. So I'm referring to anything that has happened in your past that has had a very great impact on the way that you live your life, in terms of the things that restrict you from having or feeling the most amount of peace or state of, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like having a sense of confidence in yourself. Like anything that has affected you in the past that now affects the way you do things in the present and in the future and the way you approach life, and it's very restricting and it kind of takes away from your ability to live your life in a way that feels more natural as opposed to being restricted. That's the best way I can really define it. The reason why I want to bring this up is because I feel like lately I'm seeing so many different scenarios, and also within myself, holding myself accountable, I'm seeing so many different scenarios in which the things that have happened in the past are affecting my ability or the ability of others that I see on a daily basis to kind of enjoy their life and not take things so personally, or think that there's some hidden agenda for the way that things are playing out in their life, and that it's someone out to get them as opposed to like something that's happening and the way that they're dealing with it. To get a little bit more specific, I'm noticing that there are people who, growing up the way they were raised, when they were told to do something, they had to do it right there on the spot. There was no negotiation. There was no, oh, I'm tired, I'll do it later. There was no, let me express my emotions. It was just get it done now. And if you didn't get it done now, you get beat. You know, like that's just what it was. So that person in particular never was given the space to express their emotions, understand their emotions, learn how to say no, know that there's an option to say no, that just because somebody tells you to do something doesn't mean that you have to do it right then and there or deal with the consequences of how they're going to feel, like kind of prioritizing somebody else's emotions over your own. And now I see that as an adult, because of the way they were raised, most of their conversations with any and everybody is disciplinary, and also taken in a very personal sense. If something happens to them, and it could be something regarding customer service, like, I don't know, somebody saying, hey, we don't accept this coupon at this time, or hey, we had to do a background check on whatever because of some weird, I don't know, like, it's kind of hard to describe this, but pretty much anything that happens, it doesn't matter who it is, if it's a close family member or if it's somebody, a stranger on the street, it's like they take it very personal. They take it as like, why are you treating me this way? Like, why are you doing this to affect my quality of life? You know, like they feel like people are putting them on the spot in a way that kind of makes them feel like they have to prove what they're capable of, like prove that they're capable of defending themselves, prove that they're capable of getting through whatever obstacle that has arisen. It's like a competition in a weird way. And also I noticed that it's like every time they talk to somebody, when things get emotionally heightened or in a state where people are very, like emotionally stimulated and very heightened, whether it could be very sad or very angry or whatever, the way they deal with those situations is very disciplinary. Like, you shouldn't be upset because I did ... or you shouldn't be sad because you shouldn't get sad over that. It's like, and as an adult, I see so often how the way they were raised affects their everyday life, but at the same time, they're not happy completely with their quality of life, and they always point the fingers at everybody else because they were never put in a situation to know that they are in control of their life and are in control of the way that they respond to it, because the only thing they've known is being raised and being told what to do, and the quality of their life being affected by how others perceive them. So now, as an adult, they never unlearn that behavior, so they still feel like the quality of their life is based off of how other people treat them and how others perceive them. I don't want it to come across as if I'm saying, oh, you shouldn't have an emotional reaction. I mean, there's a very clear difference to me between having an emotional reaction and then responding. Emotional reactions, I'm safe to say, I think it's safe to say that emotional reactions happen regardless, no matter what. Like, you're going to feel something, you're human, you know? But there's a difference between this made me angry, so now I'm going to take my anger out on you, as opposed to this made me angry, let me figure out how to take care of myself in this state and then respond to you when I'm in a much more calm state, and I'm not going to lash out at you or talk to you or treat you in a way that belittles you because I'm angry, you know? Like, that is what I can't stand seeing, you know? And it's very upsetting to see people do this. And it's crazy because sometimes people are so, or what I've witnessed is like, sometimes people are so in that state, so in that, like, living in the past trauma, that even when you try to introduce a new idea, they shoot it down. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, literally, that person has to acknowledge the fact that they want to change, because every time somebody tries to offer them a different reality, tell them it could be easier, it's like, no, I want this version of easier. But it's like they don't realize that this version is actually what's making it more difficult, because they're so stuck in the past and reliving that trauma and acting it out that they can't even see what they're doing to their own quality of life. Another case that I've seen is that somebody, while they were being brought up or raised, their emotions were neglected. They were never given a space to express their emotions, or they had to prioritize the emotions of other people. So now as an adult, whenever they interact with others, they don't acknowledge the emotions of the other person, and they focus more on their intent over what their actions have done to emotionally affect somebody. So somebody can say, I don't like when you make a joke about this particular thing because it's something that's still sensitive to me, it's something that still emotionally affects me. But that person will be so focused on the fact that when they make a joke out of things, they're trying to lighten the mood, or they're trying to make you laugh. So they'll be so focused on, my intentions are pure, they can't separate the intention from how it's making somebody feel. So even though the other person will continue to express, hey, don't make a joke about this particular thing, it hurts me when you do that, they can't like acknowledge the emotions of the other person or even understand the emotions, because they can't even understand their own emotions, because they never took the time to unlearn the trauma from their past, because they were never given a space to express their emotions, understand their emotions. So now, years later, when they try to have a friendship or a relationship with other people, and when those people express their emotions, it's like their mind overrides it, and then they decide to make a joke out of it, because joking is the only thing that kind of, I don't know, gives them a better state of being. So they'd rather make a joke out of something in your life, as opposed to understanding, hey, regardless of the intent of your joke, it's hurting me, please stop, you know? In my particular case, what I've noticed recently is that, like, here's the crazy thing about trauma. It's like, yes, it affects your everyday life, but at the same time, like, it affects your ability to evolve from whatever you've been through, and you end up literally reliving your trauma because you don't even realize how much your trauma is affecting your everyday life. So in particular, when I was younger and the way that I was kind of raised in the same way that I explained like the other person I was talking about earlier. So I was raised in a way that when I was told to do something, I had to get it done. I feel like the only difference is that maybe there was like a little bit more leeway in time. It's like, okay, I was told to do something, and it's like if I didn't do it within 10 minutes, I I got yelled at in a way that really like would horrify me, you know? So from a very young age, I was kind of taught to prioritize the emotions of other people, and I kind of didn't know or understand my emotions, and it's safe to say that being raised in that way makes it very hard for me as an adult now to understand setting boundaries. It's like I understand it, but the second I set a boundary and it's overstepped, like it triggers me and it freaks me out because I feel like I'm gonna have to go in kicking and screaming for somebody to just understand, please don't do this. It's like I'm not even gonna get into that because that's a lot to dissect for me, because even as I'm discussing that, it's like there's a part of my mind that's being triggered, and it's like I still don't know at times like how to navigate through that when I feel those emotions. But it's like it's difficult for me to understand that I can even set boundaries, and now I'm learning about that because I see how much as a child having adults treat me the way they wanted to, and having adults tell me what they want and when they want it, I never felt like I was capable of saying no. Like, no, I can't do this, or no, I'm not in a good state to do this, or even understanding that my emotions are valid, you know? So I realized that growing up and going through that, I ended up befriending people who knew how to stand up for themselves, who knew how to be like, well, screw you, I'm not doing this, or whatever, you know? And it's like, I loved shows like Bad Girls Club. So shows like Bad Girls Club, when I was younger, it kind of made me feel like it was giving me, I don't know, like it was kind of validating my emotions, but at the same time showing me women who like don't give a shit, will stand up for what they want, will get what they want when they want it, you know? And obviously through watching the show, you see how having that approach doesn't work for you. And, you know, it definitely takes a level of being conscious of how you feel, but also knowing like when to pick and choose what's worth confronting, what's worth letting go, how to deal with confronting somebody and stuff like that. But it's like when I was younger, I didn't know any different. Like I was just like, I'm gonna watch this because it gives me life, you know? So around that time, like I befriended people who kind of like had that same type of like energy or vibe, where they would kind of like tell people how they feel, be like, nah, screw you, like I'm not doing that. And I realize now that it's like befriending those people felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was validating my emotions. Even if I didn't open up to them about what I was going through in my life, it felt like it was validating my emotions, and it felt like I finally have somebody by my side who makes me feel like I'm capable of standing up for myself, or I'm capable of voicing how I feel. But at the same time, it was kind of like a double-edged sword, because when the time came for me to stand up to them, and when I say stand up to them, I don't mean like they purposely did something to hurt me, or intentionally had some type of ill will towards me, but it's like when they would do things that I wasn't okay with and it emotionally hurt me, I didn't know how to express my emotions to them, because I realized that I kind of like glorified them in a way in my life that made me feel like, oh shit, like now that I have to stand up to them, I don't have the power to do that, because I was so used to seeing them in this light of they stand up for themselves. I'm still learning how to do that. So when I had to do that to them, it seemed like how could I? It's like I might as well just accept the things that they do that hurts me or doesn't make me feel good, because I don't know what else to do, you know? Like, I don't know how to stand up to them, because I never really knew how to stand up to anybody from the way I was treated when I was younger. And it's crazy how that, like literally what I just explained, is showing you how you're living out your trauma, because here I am thinking that I'm making a choice that's going to help me become stronger to stand up to the people in my past, but then now in my present moment, or in that present moment, I had created another scenario in which I did not know how to voice my emotions or feel safe enough to do so. So it's like there are moments when I didn't even try because I didn't feel like I was strong enough, because I never let go of that trauma, because I never surrounded myself with people that made my emotions feel validated. So I had now relived my trauma. I had put myself in a situation in which I'm doing the things that are putting myself in a situation in which I'm reliving the things that I don't like. And it's crazy, like, seeing how I've done that to myself, you know? And the biggest thing that I've taken away from, like, seeing things like this play out and knowing what's happened is kind of, like, doing my best to step out of the trauma, doing my best to understand that, you know, people are going to have emotional reactions. It is what it is. But I think the most important thing is to understand when somebody has an emotional reaction, if it's literally something that is unhealthy and you can tell that the way that they're reacting to you is in a way that scares you and horrifies you, and you've communicated that to them and they don't change, that person can't be in your life, you know? I think that's the biggest thing that I'm learning now, because I get so caught up in being afraid of making somebody angry that it kind of overrides the part of my mind that should be like, wait a second, should this person still be in my life if they treat me like this? Because I do my best to be so accepting of people, and sometimes I don't know how to separate accepting somebody for who they are versus, you're hurting me, stop, and if you don't stop, you can't be in my life, you know? It's so crazy how, like, I the first thing that comes to mind is when people are like, how do I keep ending up in this? Like, how do I keep putting myself in these situations where people treat me like this? Like, why does this happen to me? But it's like, it's so important to realize that you are happening to the world. The world isn't happening to you. It's not like somebody is sitting with a pen and paper and they're like, today I think we're in for a very stressful argument and we're going to have a customer that curses so-and-so out. It's like, nobody's sitting there and literally doing this to you. It's like, it's not personal. Nothing's ever really personal. We're all going through our own traumas and things that have affected our emotional state of being and our ability to communicate to others. And I think it's so important to realize that if you don't unlearn your trauma and do the work, you're going to keep reliving it. And it's difficult to unlearn traumas when you keep getting triggered, which is why it's important to realize the people in your life who are triggering you, either you should spend less time in that area and spend more time in the area or with the people who help you become closer to the type of person you want to be, or maybe they're just not meant to be in your life, you know? Like, it's difficult because sometimes when we build this attachment with people over years and we've known them for years, it kind of feels like, well, I've known you for years, like, why would I, like, there's guilt. I know I feel guilt letting go of people that I love and care about, because, I don't know, I guess I feel some sense of doubt. I mean, not doubt. I guess I feel some sense of debt to them, where it's like I think of the good memories and I think of how much we've grown, but it's like sometimes they're just friendships or relationships or whatever the case may be, where it was just meant to be for a certain amount of time, because we're all going through it, you know, we're all going through something, and sometimes the direction we need to head in to become a better version of ourselves may be in different directions, you know? Another major thing that I'm realizing is like, I don't want to live a lie, you know? Like, I don't want to allow people to think that here's the thing, like, this is something that's happened to me before. I remember when I was working, I had a bad day. You know, we all have a bad day. And when I had that bad day, that was kind of like the first time that everyone at my workplace had seen me in a negative mood. It's like I was quiet. I didn't really hold eye contact. I wasn't really smiling at anybody. And one of my coworkers came up to me and he was just like, one said, "I've never seen you like this before." And I think what somebody else had said was, "But you're you, like, you're always positive. What happened to positive you?" You know? And that felt so upsetting because it's like, I get that I'm the positive person, but it's like, even the positive person has rough days. Even the positive person isn't always positive, you know? And it's like, I'm sick of feeling like I have to hold this, I don't know, like, this position of what I'm meant to be in life. It's like, I'm sorry, but I can't be positive all the time. I can't always be the person that uplifts you all the time. I can't be the person who will follow through with something because you tell me, as whoever you may be in my life, that it'll make you happy. I can't be that person. I can't do things specifically to make you happy. I can't do things specifically because you don't want to see me in a different emotional state. I'm a human being. I'm going through life just like everybody else. And just because you see me positive all the time doesn't mean that I don't have my 10% of negative days. It doesn't mean that I don't sit in my room and cry sometimes because I'm going through it. It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm experiencing emotions any less than you know? And it's upsetting when it's like, I feel like, and I know this isn't 100% true because I do have positive people in my life, but there were points in the past where I felt like I was the most positive person I knew in my life. And that sucks because when I fall down, who the hell is there to lift me up? Because literally what sucks about that is, like, I have had moments where I've hit the ground. I have little to no hope. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And when I reached out to others for help, their help was still negative. It's like they couldn't uplift me. It's like I had to persuade them that I was going to be okay just so that I didn't have to emotionally go through somebody else externally telling me how concerned they were about me when I couldn't even uplift my own self. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing a great job like explaining that, but it sucks to feel that. And here is another case in which I am feeling like my emotions are not being validated, and I'm being put in another space in which what is being expected of me is being prioritized over what I'm feeling, which brings me back to the trauma that I have felt when I was younger. And this is why I'm realizing like how much this plays such a big part in my quality of life. You know, it's like, I want to be positive. That is the decision I am making in my life, because if I'm positive, it improves my quality of life. But at the same time, I'm realizing that I need to be very conscious of the people that I include in my life, because if I include people in my life who aren't validating of my emotions and who aren't realizing that even though I'm positive, I need to be uplifted too, or aren't able to acknowledge that, you know, when I say something, when I say, hey, I'm going through something, and their response to that is, hey, can you still do this because it would make me happy? It's like, I can't keep putting myself in situations like that because it is affecting my quality of life, you know? It's like, I don't want to go through that anymore. Putting myself first this year has taught me so much because it really made me sit myself down and think about the things in my life that I don't like. You know, it takes, it's very daunting, overwhelming to sit down and think about the aspects of yourself that you don't like. Because it's like, once you identify that you don't like, it's like, now what? How do I change this? You know, like, what can I do to change these aspects of myself, and how do I not beat myself up about every time that I see myself doing the thing that I don't like, you know? You literally have to expose yourself to things that you usually don't. Like, that's the biggest thing that I'm realizing, because, and it's not even just exposure, it's also relearning things, you know, which is what brings me back to my main point, unlearning traumas. It's like, one of the things I realized when I was younger is that whenever somebody would give me a gift, it's like that gift was either used in some way to make me feel in debt to somebody, or make me feel like I owed them something. For example, so like, let's say somebody gifted me a PS2 for Christmas, right? And then months later after Christmas, something happens in which the person that gifted me it wanted me to wash the dishes for them, or wanted me to, I don't know, do something for them. And I said no. When I say no, they're like, well, you have to do it or else I'll take away your PS2. And it kind of got me to a point where it's like, that would happen so much, where it's like, whatever was gifted to me was always used as leverage for getting me to do something else. So it's like, I always felt in debt. I always felt like I couldn't allow myself to be too happy over getting gifts, because if I was too happy, I was setting myself up for that happiness being taken away when they would use it as leverage to get me to do something else. So it's like, now as an adult, I don't really care about my birthday. I don't really care about getting gifts. It's like, if somebody gets me a gift, I feel in debt. I feel like I owe you something. I feel like if I can't pay you back, I'm less than. What does less than mean? I really don't know. It's just my mind is like, I should not feel that great about myself because I can't pay you back. Or I feel like I shouldn't allow myself to be so happy over somebody getting me something because it's going to be used as leverage, you know? And it took me a while to unlearn that. I'm still trying to unlearn that. I'm still trying to understand that when somebody gives me a gift, it's not because they're looking for something in return. But when I was younger, that's the way it was used, you know? Like, there's so much stuff that, like, sticks with me, and it's like, I never realized that. I just knew that I didn't really have much care for my birthday. I didn't have much, excitement towards when people give me gifts. Like, when friends give me gifts, I feel in debt. And then when it comes to my birthday or Christmas, like, I don't really gas myself up too much because I don't really expect to get something that means a lot to me. And if I do, I feel like later on, down along the line, it's going to be used as leverage to get me to do something I don't want to do, you know? Like, it's so crazy how things that are so simple, you know, will stick with you and affect your everyday life. And it's like, I'm literally reteaching myself, like, that this isn't true. You know, that's the most important thing that I'm realizing. It's like, anything in your life can really affect your ability to understand what type of life you can have. But it's so important to realize the people you include in your life, how they're affecting it, but also do the mental work to understand that there's things that are still sticking with you, and if you don't unlearn it, it's going to affect you in your present day life. I'm realizing how trauma affects our ability to just see clearly how we're treating others. We put this unfair pressure on others to be like, don't you care about my happiness, or don't you want to make me happy? It's like, that's nobody else's responsibility but your own. Like, I get that it can be upsetting when you make plans with somebody and it doesn't happen, or it can be upsetting when somebody said they would follow through with an action and they don't. But it's like, we're all going through our life. We're all having different experiences that are affecting us emotionally in different ways. And I think the most upsetting thing that I've seen or witnessed is when people put their happiness in the hands of others and they get so caught up in titles. It's like, you're my girlfriend, you're my boyfriend, you're my sister, you're my whatever it may be, you know? It's like people get so caught up in the title and the expectation that meets the title that it's like you don't realize like the amount of pressure you're putting on somebody else. It's like if you can't understand your own self and understand what makes you happy or understand your emotions and how to communicate that clearly, how can you expect somebody else to fulfill those needs when you can't even fulfill it your own? Like you can't even do that for yourself. So it's like, why would you put that pressure on somebody else? And I really believe that it's trauma that makes us feel like that. It's trauma that makes us feel like other people owe us something. Like it makes me so sad when people do things that are nice and kind, and then later on they're like, well, remember when I did this? Like, this is why you owe me this. And it's just like, why can't you just do something out of the kindness of your heart? Why can't you do something because you know what that person is going through and you want to be able to offer them a better state of being? Why does it have to be debt? You know, why does it have to be, now you owe me this? Why? You know, like that is so upsetting and repulsive to me, you know? Especially because of what I said just before about when I would get gifts and like the way it would make me feel and how it affects me now. It's like, it's so upsetting for me to see things like that. And all this roots back to why it's so important to unlearn traumas. It's like they stick with us, you know? It's so important to realize that if we don't let go of the hurt that's within us, it's possible that we end up becoming the people that hurt us most and hurting other people, you know? Even if that's not our intentions, it's like it's something that could and can happen. And it's like, these are the things I think about every day. It's like when I get triggered or when my trauma, I have a conscious state of realizing how my trauma is affecting me. It's like I think about the type of person I want to be and how I can get closer to that. Like, I don't want to be like any of the people that have hurt me in my life, you know? So I'm constantly doing my best to be conscious through all the things that subconsciously trigger me and dissecting how I feel, dissecting what I can do to offer love to myself. It's like, this is like a life journey, you know? Like, I don't know how long it's going to take me to unlearn these traumas and relearn healthier living, but it's like, I love myself enough to know that I deserve a better state of life. I want to give myself a better state of life. So it's like, I'm not going to live with somebody else's pain. I'm not going to allow the way somebody else treated me and their inability to improve their quality of life to affect my quality of life. Like, I don't want to be another passer of pain. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of patience. Like, I can't tell you how long it takes to unlearn trauma. Because it wasn't until this year that I'm realizing the trauma that I have, and I'm still actively doing the work to unlearn it. And it's like, the moments that I get triggered as I'm trying to unlearn it, it literally like freaks me out. It's like, I can't, it's like my mind just plays on repeat. What happened? Why it happened? Trying to dissect what I should say to the person. When am I going to say it? And it's like my mind just goes on this constant loop, and it's like I don't know how to focus in that moment, and it's so intense to go through it. But at the end of the day, I know what type of quality of life I want, and it's like I can't have a better quality of life if I don't do the work. It's like I have to fix myself. I have to better myself. I have to become a better version of myself so that when I approach the world and the version of myself that I am bringing to the world, I know that I'm doing things that are creating the life I want as opposed to the life I had and creating more pain that I don't want in my life. Anyway, that's it for today's video. Bless up, and until next time, sending out much peace, love, and enlightenment. Bye, guys.